Hi guys, and welcome to my workshop again. Today I want to talk about gears. When I first started riding on bike, I was advised to run compact chainrings and an 11 to 28 cassette, which is what I have done for basically most of my riding career so far. So in the last year and a half, I've been riding a compact and an 11 to 28 cassette. Both of my old bikes, all my Dura cranks, everything was compact and 11 to 28, and it worked really fine for me. I really needed to use all of my gears to get a proper cadence. I have taught myself to ride at a pretty high cadence to be effective, which is not as easy when you're a beginner. And I never really had a reason to switch to bigger ones until this spring, basically, when I managed to improve my fitness quite a lot. I have managed to improve my efficiency on the bikes, both of my bikes actually, and as it turned out, it started to feel a bit strange to ride compact gears, because there were times when on the flat, even in a slight tailwind, I began riding in 50-11 quite a lot, so I used my big gears. Of course, I couldn't spin it out to 130 RPM or anything. I'm not a superhuman, no one can do that, and I'm certain I never will be able to do that, but still riding on the 50-11, it's quite a small cock back there, quite a small one in the front. Turns out it's not too great for efficiency, and as I got fitter, and I can now put out around 5 to 6 watts per kilo on short sustained climbs. So when you ride at that kind of power, you rarely ever use the biggest cocks when you are in the compact, even on very steep climbs, because usually, at least where I live, very steep climbs are not very long, and very long climbs are not very steep. So I started thinking about it a bit, and recently, around I think in February, I switched to mid-compact chainrings, and they turned out to be quite good. I really like them, but in tailwinds I still got to a point where I can hit 50-11 quite often, even with a good cadence, because we have really strong winds here, and I still didn't use all my lowest gears. And since now I own two SRAM Red 11 to 32 cassettes, which are absolutely amazing, and I love them. They're a bit gappy with the 50 tooth, but with the 52 it's a bit better, still some big gas, but with this cassette you never have to worry about your gear choice, because you can climb anything and you can go anywhere you want, probably even off-road. So having this cassette with the 52-36 at the front, I still barely ever touched the 32 cock at the back, so I was mostly at the 25-28 cogs. So I decided to go in further than that. At first I was a bit disappointed, because I've chosen my cork power meter to reflect my gearing. So this is a compact 110B CD cork, and I have these on both of my bikes, but it turns out it's the greatest choice you can make for your bike, because with 130 you are quite limited to running some bigger gears, but you can fit on a 110, you can fit anything from a 34 to a 58 or possibly 60. I've shown you my 54 tooth custom chainring, my TT bike before. I really love that in the 1x setup. That's specifically made for every customer from ARC, Aero Coach, so definitely a great product. But you can't use it in the front derailleur. And of course, I'll be doing some quite hilly road races now. So I can't afford to put 1x11 on my road bike. But as it turns out, I was browsing the web one day and I found that Rotor, Spanish company, you know them from their keyrings maybe. Actually, I'm pretty sure you do. So yeah, I came across their 110 BCD options and I found that they can fit and they make any kind of chainring you want, even in 110 BCD. So if you're thinking about a new power meter, I can definitely suggest you to go for the 110, because then you can fit any chainring combination you will ever want to, no matter where you want to ride or how you want to ride. So I think that's a great thing. With the 130 you're quite a bit limited. And if you have Shimano cranks, then you still have this great option, because those are 110 BCD and they don't have compact or a standard, they just have their asymmetrical ball design. So again, you can fit every size Shimano chainrings to your Shimano cranks. So yeah, that's definitely a great thing nowadays. The one race I'm specifically want to target, because I think it's my best chance of having a good result this year, is actually just a couple of kilometers from my hometown in Esztergom, Hungary. It goes through some pretty big mountains, and it has 1500 meters of climbing, or a bit over than that, in 100 kilometers. So it's quite a hilly race, and it has one super steep section in there, which I didn't struggle with it last year, but that's where I really used all of my 34-28 gears, and I needed to go, well, to get some numbers here. I've prepared some data. Yeah, so this race I did in 2016. My maximum speed was 73.4, and if you look at the 5011 topping out 130 RPM, that's 74.5, so that's quite close to that in the downhills. And my slowest speed on that very difficult climb was 13 km per hour, and I needed 339 watts just to be basically able to get onto the top. So that was my 32.428. That's a gear ratio of 121 at 80 RPM. That's the lowest I would ever want to go. That's 12.3 kilometers per hour, so pretty slow. Now what would happen if I used my compact with my 32? Well, that's basically very close to 1-to-1 gear ratio, and at 80 RPM it gives you 10 km per hour. Now I'm pretty sure I don't want to be going 10 km per hour in any race, and yeah, last year I did 13 as my lowest speed there, so I think this wouldn't be too good, because the jumps between the cogs would be great, the jumps between the rings would be great. And yeah, I think that's quite a compromise system, unless you are living in really hilly, mountainous, alpine stuff, or you are not that fit, not that good on the climbs. But these numbers refer to me, so if you're near fitness, you can give really good judgment. But for beginners, these two gears definitely a good option. And it still is for me now, but I'm looking for something better. Okay, so then I decided, yeah, the setup I had last time around, 36-32, that's actually a lower gear than I used last time. It gives us a speed of 11.45 km per hour, or if I use the 28 cassette, that will be 13.1. Yeah, that's it. So this way I could match my lowest speed from last year. But sorry, I don't want to do that because last year this kind of wattage put me in the red. This year I think I should be completely fine doing this. So 36-32, that might be a good option. And what I have here now is a 39-32. That's basically the same gear I had last year, very close, just 1/10 of a kilometer per hour difference. So I think that still is going to work, since I can hold much higher wattage. I'm around 4 kilos lighter. My bike is half a kilo heavier, but I can sustain around 40 watts, 40-50 watts more for long efforts. So I think I'm going to be deciding between these two. I don't really want to use the 28 cassette because bigger cogs, bigger gears with large tooth counts have higher efficiency. And another thing I want to explore with the standard gearing, of course here are the top speeds. They are not really that relevant because last year I didn't even touch speeds like these, so that's not as important. Definitely the roads are quite bad over there, so you can't go very fast in the downhills. But the thing I want to explore is the gap between the chainrings themselves, because with the standard you only have 14 tooth of a difference, so that makes for high chain tension in the small ring. Because maybe you have noticed, if you are in a small ring in one of these setups, compact, semi-compact, then your chain becomes quite slack in a little ring, and it shouldn't happen that much on the standard cranks. Okay, now just when I started fitting my rotor chainring to my cork, there immediately was a problem, and that was caused by this small lump on the power meter here. So because the rotor chainring is basically full in this area, it doesn't have any cutouts, then that bit was interfering in a way that I just couldn't mount the chainring on the spider. So what I had to do was, well, I put the chainring in the soft jaw vise, then I took a small precision file, and then I filed this little lump into the chainring. So now it actually fits. I'm quite happy with the result. It didn't turn out to be looking some extremely botched, so it's quite good. Then I took some polishing paste right there and polished it off, so I have a pretty nice smooth surface. Now I'm going to degrease it and touch it up with some black paint so it's not really visible, and then hopefully I'll be finally able to install the chainrings and the cranks to my bike. One problem I've noticed is that the safety pin is in a different location than the crank, but I'm going to position it so that it's slightly before the crank arm, not slightly behind, because this way I basically get the same safety feature. So let's just see how that will turn out. And this way I can maybe set up my cage tension to the lowest setting to gain a bit on efficiency. So these are the options I want to explore. Now for the standard rings I got. As I mentioned, these are from Rotor. These are standard round rings. No Q rings for me. I really don't want to mess up my shifting with those. And to be honest, I use a non-circular ring on my time trial bike, and if I was blindfolded I couldn't tell a single difference from the way I'm pedaling the bike that if I'm on a round ring or not. So yeah, it might be a bit beneficial in terms of human performance, but I don't really want to risk messing up my shifting or some chains coming off. So yeah, circular rings for me, for now at least, with front derailleurs. This is the solid aero version, which I found is super stiff. It seems to be much stiffer than SRAM's own ring, and it's beautiful machined as well, so I think the shifting will be awesome and the power transfer as well. Maybe some aero gains from the smooth surface, which is filled in. One problem that creates is that you have to take off your spider in order to fit that, because you can't get the chainring over this small lump if you don't. So that's a bit of an issue, but never mind. Okay, so now I'm going to use the standard crank setup, and then later on I will do some proper back-to-back tests. I think I'll not be using the compact cranks anymore, because with a 30 cassette I don't have any reason to. So I'm going to focus on comparing my mid-compact and my standard setups. So I already have some hill climbing data from mid-compact, you can check it out on Strava, and later on I'll be comparing these two. Okay, so let's get to the installation. Of course the footage will be included at the back of this video, and if you'd like to see my further findings on this quite sensitive topic, I would say, then don't forget to tune into my channel later on and subscribe so you don't miss anything. It's all for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.